এখন আমরা কথা বলছি জনাব লেফটেন্যান্ট জেনারেল অরুণ কুমার সানির সঙ্গে। উনি একজন ফর্মার আর্মি কমান্ডার, ইন্ডিয়ান আর্মির। বর্তমানে তিনি ঢাকায় এসেছেন ভারত মহাসাগরীয় যে সম্মেলনটা হচ্ছে সেখানে অংশগ্রহণ করার জন্যে। তো আমরা তাকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি। ওয়েলকাম জেনারেল। How do you look at this visit to Bangladesh at this time? What is the purpose of this visit? Can you explain us?
Well, thank you very much. I mean, delighted to be here and be introduced to the audience. All those who would be looking and reading this article, may I just say that I have come here as a member of the India Foundation for the Indian Ocean Conference number 6, which is being hosted co-jointly by the government of Bangladesh, the government of India, Ministry of External Affairs, and India Foundation, which is steering to organize this conference for the littoral countries of Indian Ocean.
Thank you very much for giving us the time. General, my first question is, what is your observation and impression about this Indian Ocean Conference held in Dhaka, with the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina inaugurated and various participants from the 25 countries, including India, Bangladesh, and others. So India Foundation also the co-host of this event. So what is the discussion points and what is the outcome you are expecting?
Well, thank you very much. I think one of the greatest advantages of holding the conference, this is the Indian Ocean Conference Series 6 at Bangladesh, is to bring to prominence the importance that the Bay of Bengal holds for the Indo-Pacific strategy in the bigger picture. And as you're aware, this Indian Ocean Conference was steered by India Foundation along with the Ministry of External Affairs, and this year with the government of Bangladesh, is held annually to look at issues of shared responsibility, shared experiences, the challenges that are there, and how should we take it ahead, especially with the premise that the Indian Ocean challenges are the domain of the littoral states, and it is their responsibility to jointly address issues that are challenging each and every one of us in different dimensions. As you're aware, when you look at the climate change, there is no doubt about it. Bangladesh is one of the would actually feel the impact in a much larger manner, and it has been quite path-breaking that its Mujib plan of prosperity, the Delta plan, these have been things in the right direction, because mitigation and adaptation is the responsibility of the government, how to meet the challenges for the human security of your own nation. And I think they've made a great start. So I think the location was prime, the location was appropriate, and I think Bangladesh is, with its current economy and with its growing stature internationally, is a key player in ensuring the culmination of, or the maturing of the Indo-Pacific strategy as it exists.
So in terms of Indo-Pacific strategy, how do you look at these Indian Ocean Conference will contribute, as you just said, the climate change and all the prospect of peace and stability of the region and the development, and also the inclusiveness, what is mentioned by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. So what you are thinking, that the region is becoming the battlefield for the competition of the geopolitics. So how you are looking ahead?
I think, let me put it like that, undoubtedly post-COVID and with the rise of China, there is a strife as far as the existing global order is concerned. So in this emerging global order, there are countries who initially at the end of Second World War were not major players as far as the geoeconomics and geopolitics is concerned. But today I think each and every country has a major stake, and I think today India and the countries of South Asia have a major role to play in the future emerging global order. And keeping that in mind, I think I'm sorry, I should draw your attention also to the fact that last month yourself, those 15-point plans have been given out as far as the
Yes.
overview of the Indo-Pacific is concerned, as
Outlook.
far as Bangladesh is concerned, anchored on 4 principles. I think that is absolutely the right direction to go. So the answer of these forums is that it gives you an opportunity to interact with like-minded people who have the correct and the correct, I would say, similar thought for how to meet the challenges of the region, because undoubtedly territorial boundaries can look at the sovereignty issue, but I think climate and issues related to the impact that is going to happen is going to impact all of us in a different manner. If it is Bhutan, it's got the glaciers problem. If it is Bangladesh, it's got the coastal problem. India has got coastal problems. You have island territories like Maldives and Mauritius who are also going to feel challenges as the rising sea levels happen. And today, looking at blue economy, acidification of the oceans, I mean, the challenges are tremendous. Non-traditional challenges of illegal fishing and irresponsible fishing, drugs, trafficking, all these are issues today we have. So I think if today all of us who are part, the 30 odd nations who are part of the littoral states, if we sit down and make a policy, I think then you would find that we would be moving in the right directions.
As a major player in the region, India, what is the direction? Whether as because we are looking the inclusiveness, if you think the China also a major actor in this region, so we did not
So
see the Chinese participation on this Indian Ocean
let me put it
conflict.
like this: that if you take the Indian Ocean, it starts from the east coast of Africa and comes to the Malacca states, which is, and where Bay of Bengal is really a pivotal portion of this whole greater water mass of the maritime domain. China is an extra regional player actually. If you see, it doesn't have a domain. It doesn't really have a access as it exists. Yes, it is using its oil pipelines through Myanmar for its looking at addressing its energy needs. So I think the focus of this conference is that everybody else has a role to play, regional and extra regional players. But I think the challenges which need to be dealt with in this particular region have to be something which is collaboratively looked at as a shared responsibility by all the littoral states. So that is the reason why India, and that's been the India's focus. And if you see the current Prime Minister, the whole policy of Sagar was what? I think it was to be inclusive, not only within the country, but in your near abroad, where there are linked, not only the historical and cultural linkages, but there are geographical linkages, there are linkages in the economy, in the resources, and the impact that is going to happen. So I think the shared thing has been the focus of India. And maybe that's one of the reasons, as I said, that we have looked at holding and hosting this conference in collaboration with all our partners to be able to address these challenges in a more holistic manner.
Look at this bilateral relation between Bangladesh and India. We are seeing this is growing day by day, starting from the 1971 cooperation on our relation between Bangladesh and India. This relation and partnership is growing day by day. It started from 1971 war against Pakistan, and India was cooperating with Bangladesh, and finally we got the independence. And from that time, now it has grown in many areas, many dimensions, political, economic, security, and many others. So, how do you look at this moment the relations between Bangladesh and India?
I love the way you talked about 1971. My father had also participated in the liberation of Bangladesh as part of the Indian Army, and he had operated in the area of Jessore Khulna. So I think there is an umbilical linkage, as I said, an emotional linkage for all of us who are from the uniformed services, who have had something to do for the liberation of Bangladesh. That aside, I think the cornerstone for bilateral relation remains undoubtedly the relationship that exists between political leaderships. I think all of us have challenges which are internal, uh, which are specific to our countries. But I think where statesmanship is shown by the apex leadership, things start happening. And I think both Sheikh Hasina ji here, herself, and Prime Minister Modi have developed a great relationship which has given direction to meaningful activity happening. And if you see in the last decade or so, we have resolved the issues of the enclaves, we have looked at addressing the issues of the water sharing. Some have been done, some haven't been done. Infrastructure has come up to connect those cultural and historical linkages. You look at the Silchar linkage that has come up, the bridges that have come up. You look at the Indo-Bangla waterway systems that are being developed in jointly.
Also the sea areas,
And yes, absolutely, the coastal
the
fishing areas.
maritime boundary
Maritime
demarcation.
boundaries. Absolutely. So you're finding that where the political harmony and bonhomie exist at the apex leadership, activities will happen. And I think I would not be wrong in stating that current phase seems to be literally the golden age of India-Bangladesh relationships. And this has set the tone for greater collaboration, whether it is in the levels of health industry, whether you're looking at economic linkages coming up. They have started, they will mature, and I'm sure in due course of time we can only see the path getting better and greener for all of us.
Okay, this you just said the many big challenge already dissolved by the both leaders, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, particularly the land boundary and cliffs and the maritime boundary. Those were the biggest issue. Now there are are challenges also. There are what they said the Tista water sharing issues. Always Bangladesh is pressing for resolve. The West Bengal has objection, so now it is long time pending. So
No, I think what you're right. This is an ongoing process. Bilateral relationships between neighboring countries will continue to be addressed over a period of time. If there are older challenges get addressed, then you'll have newer challenges coming up. And undoubtedly, as long as there is a positive approach from both sides, there will be a resolution of matters. We've seen some of the activities have already happened as far as river water sharing is concerned, especially when you're looking towards Assam and that direction. But I think, yes, there are issues like the Tista. I'm sure it'll get sorted out in due course. Because both sides are working overtime to try and resolve whatever are their internal, I would say, bottlenecks that are being created by local leaderships or by local states. As long as those get addressed, you will find that there will be a resolution of the matter. I don't see it very far down the line. I think it should be in the forthcoming future. You should be able to see a resolution of this issue.
So you are very hopeful, but there is a frustration here. So anyway, my question is: you have the experience in the northeastern region, and Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has generously cooperated with India to resolve these issues, the security issues. So what is the situation, and how do you evaluate this security situation that cooperation from Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to Indian leadership?
No, absolutely outstanding. I think one of the greatest requirements was to have connectivity with Southeast Asia and develop it towards the Far East. And I think there were two bridges that really India could go through. The land bridge was through Myanmar, which unfortunately, with the current turn of events, has come to a standstill. But I think the maritime domain linkages that had to exist had to be with the support of Bangladesh. And I think I'm extremely happy to see these integrated checkposts that have come up. Whether it's at Akhora or at Petroport, you find the kind of traffic that is moving from there is phenomenal. These IBPs, that is the Indo-Bangla waterways that have been identified, IBP 1 and 2, I think the aim finally is to look at methodologies by which trade can seamlessly be carried out towards wherever the outward direction is provided for the goods to move. But then we utilize the port facilities that exist. And that's where the relationship between the two countries have come up. Issues of GST were there, the issues of traffic, of change of transportation was there. They are all issues that have come up which are being addressed. Some have been addressed partially. But we will find that things will improve. And I think Bangladesh has been quite magnanimous in allowing us, giving the northeast of India an access through the Chittagong and the southern ports through Mizoram, which actually changes the whole dimension of our engagement and the time taken for movement and transit of goods. Brings down the cost, makes them more competitive, and gives them a greater outreach. So I think it's a win-win situation for both countries.
But
then
regarding the insurgency in the northeastern, to tackle the insurgency, the Prime Minister's herself position was very tough. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's position.
agree.
So nowadays, everybody asking for reciprocity on the waterfront to sharing. Well, this is
But I think we should look at it like this. 71 to now is over 50 years.
Yes.
And what you have been able to achieve in the last about 6 to 8 years has been absolutely phenomenal. So I think if we look at it, I personally believe in any family, issues get resolved over a period of time.
Right.
It's not like a toggle switch that you put it on and everything gets sorted out. The good part is that people are moving forward, things are happening. Yes, there are pain points, and maybe people who are directly impacted are the people who are in the exact vicinity. For them, they may not have felt the relief, but I'm sure it's going to happen in due course of time. And the economic movement that happens, there is going to be an advantage and a win-win for both. Roads and connectivity will give livelihoods this side in Bangladesh, will give livelihoods on the other side in India as well, other than the trade and economic benefits that you're getting.
You just said the Chittagong and Mongla ports using India is beneficial for both countries, but one of the issues what we have just listened from a Japanese gentleman, they are putting a deep sea port in the Bay of Bengal. It is called Matarbari Deep Sea Port,
Yes.
and they have targeted the northeastern state to use this deep sea port. Even during the visit of the Japanese Prime Minister, Mr. Kishida, visit in India, he has also requested India to use the port. How do you look at the economic cooperation, the trilateral cooperation, Japan, Bangladesh, India, in the front of Matarbari Deep Sea Port?
I think one of the greatest things that Japan has done is it's been a friend for, I think, especially for Bangladesh and India, it's been extremely large-hearted in ensuring that the infrastructure disconnect that happened post the partition of India in 47 gets addressed correctly. And undoubtedly, bringing up this deep sea port would give us greater traction to move out goods from that particular area. The utilization of the port will generate income for Bangladesh. This port would also not only give the northeast of India, it would give Bhutan, it would give Nepal also a way out to move out from here, which is extremely great. So when you have the Siliguri corridor, when you have through the northeastern region where the infrastructure is developing at an extremely fast pace. So I think once development comes in, economic good happens for the people, livelihoods come in, you would find lesser I would say, concentration of the youth to get diverted towards insurgency and non-security related activities, do the wrong things. Undoubtedly that will happen, and that's where I think we should look at it positively. We should facilitate, I think both sides and every person on each side of the border needs to facilitate this activity so that this happens faster than we anticipate that it would take to happen.
And regarding the people-to-people connectivity, we have the cultural exchange and other the exchange like the think tanks and other general people also go for treatment in India. So there are a lot of visa facilities here, but expectation is very high. Do you think this visa facility should be more easier that Bangladeshi can go to India for various purposes, for business, for tourism, for treatment, and many other purposes?
Yeah, I think I'm sure it's going to happen. India, within the last about 5 years, has developed these e-visa facilities where you can go online and move out. I think it's just a matter of time. I think these are not issues which would really curtail India-Bangladesh relationships. Yes, undoubtedly, it's a very populous country. Both the countries have large populations, so the transit and the load for people to do it manually is that much more difficult. So I'm sure once the electronic system comes into being and e-visa start off, it will become that much more easier for people to transit. You already have a system of sorts, and maybe this needs to be streamlined and made more effective and more and optimized to cut down the timeline for various people.
And the security and defense cooperation nowadays, Bangladesh and India is going to cooperate each other on the defense front because in traditionally Bangladesh always import the military hardware from China. Most of the now Bangladesh is diversifying the import and the security cooperation with other countries, including India. So, what what prospect you are looking?
Oh, no, I think it's ideal. I think today, when you're looking at niche technology, you're looking at platforms that you require for whether it's for surveillance, whether it is for your marine movement, for your uh, movement and mobility of your forces in the coastal regions, in the delta region. I think India has developing under its Make in India, it has really given a fillip to the kind of infrastructure and the kind of platforms and subsystems that we can develop. The Indian Army is already going in a big way on Make in India defense and only indigenous products. Uh, and seeing the kind of our work culture that we exist here, I'm sure it would be ideally suited for Bangladesh. The finances and the money involved in that would be very, very competitive. But more importantly, you would get a chance. Nobody talks about it, but I think China's support is always loaded with some ulterior motive. So why should any country be pressurized directly or indirectly uh, to accept things which it doesn't want for the good of its own people and for its own country? And I think India's this bit of inclusive growth is the right direction. And defense and security is an area where we joined. We have a large number of officers who come and do courses with us. We have engagement strategies which happen. Today, with the line of credits that has been given, some of the corporates are now getting involved here. You've got the Tatas and the L&Ts coming into the fray. So I think move in the right direction, gives greater, I would say, flexibility to Bangladesh to be able to follow its own guided path of development and vision without being under any undue stress economically or due to any other indirect pressures that can be created. We've seen what's happened in Sri Lanka. I mean, the economic disaster has been in the making thanks to the kind of rates, whereas Japan has been very, very forthcoming and giving loans, soft loans at very, very minimal percentages, which gives you time to be able to do your infrastructure and do not come under pressure for the repayments. So I think it's a great way to go ahead.
And now the question is about the political relationship and personal relationship with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and Prime Minister Modi. And Bangladesh is now stand on and ahead of a national and general election. There are question criticism of the quality of the election. Despite the criticism, the India has supported Sheikh Hasina in 2014, 2018. And how do you look at the next election, whether the India is supporting strongly with Sheikh Hasina?
Oh, 100%. I think it would be the best. India is also going in for elections next year. So you've
Yeah,
got
yes.
general elections both in Bangladesh and here. And me personally, as a military man who's also looking at the interest of India as long-term vision, I think if we have a safe neighborhood, we have a very harmonious neighborhood, the development activities will be given due attention. Social inequality that exists within our own systems will get addressed better. Finances will be directed for the right things. I think I'm quite sure that we will, the people of Bangladesh should be mature enough to get Sheikh Hasina back in power. And so would, I think, India, that we would be delighted to see Prime Minister Modi coming back to power and this golden era to continue for the next 5 years again. And hopefully some of the issues that you raised will finally get resolved.
That's good.
Whether it's the Tista water or issues related to some of the other border and maritime issues that are related. So I'm sure it's a bright future that we are looking at.
So, what you're thinking that in India, the Prime Minister Modi is Modi has no chance to come as a prime minister again.
No, no,
Is,
100% he'll come.
is it constitutionally okay?
No, no, I would say that today when you have elections, the mandate is going to come. He has a resounding following. Today, I think no prime minister after two tenures has had such
Yeah.
kind of a rating. His rating is absolutely at the top of the gun. So I think there should be no doubt that he'll come back. But elections are elections, so you have to wait for the results to come in. But I would say, personally, it would be the right direction both India and Bangladesh will take to elect the current governments back to power, so that continued growth and prosperity and the focus of this whole conference, peace, prosperity, remains the foci for the governments in power.
And the last question is from me that about these about the cooperation amongst our nations. Um, if you look at this region or Asian region, it is the growth center, but also the hotspot in South China Sea. And whatever always Bangladesh is pushing, that there is no rivalry between China and against the China. So they always want a peaceful maritime or peaceful region that could help us to develop. Sometimes we see that there are rivalry amongst the countries. So how to balance this situation? Bangladesh is always trying to balance and to make the friendship to all Malay's to none is the principal foreign policy. But nowadays it is very challenging and difficult. So what you will say the final words?
I would put it like this, that challenges are bound to exist. There are territorial boundary disputes which India and China have. There were certain areas where the other maritime disputes exist. But I think as everybody is looking at peace and prosperity, I would say I think the COC that has been signed recently for South China Sea, the Code of Conduct, I think is the right direction by the countries who are living around. What should be the code of conduct for everyone? I think we have already worked out within South Asia and in the IOR, thanks to IONS, IORA, and now the Indian Ocean Conference, that we have basically the code of conduct that is there for people to conduct themselves and retain and have mutual respect for each other while addressing your personal concerns which are integral or intrinsic to each country. I would say that let not problems be the main guiding force for relationship. I think peace and harmony will come as long as you look at it positively. It's a path that you have to follow, and I think this path looks bright to me. Somewhere down the line, there's always light, and I see light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you very much, General, for giving us the interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you.